Hey, it's Amanda Wickett from ASAP Network, and I'm making this video because I just want to start a conversation happening within the industry. Um, and this conversation is going to be about click and mortar era for aftermarket automotive. So the reason I'm writing this is I've been kind of thinking about this a lot. Last week, I read this article that dropped the phrase click and mortar, and it got me thinking. So yes, I did not make up click and mortar, but I love the concept. And it is kind of sad because we're all just now getting a grasp on how e-commerce works and how it's changed everything. And 20 years ago, 25 years ago, none of this existed. So we're all infants in this, and we're all trying to figure this out. I think a lot of times we're so close to it as an owner of an e-commerce store, or even a brick and mortar store. I think everyone got real excited when the internet came around, and you weren't just limited to people that were just within driving distance to you. A lot of things got lost in the transition, and it's been a very crazy couple decades, but things are changing again, right? So before we even get a hold of what we're doing, we're seeing some things happen. And so this is going to happen, and I just want to put it on the table and get the conversation. All of you guys not live and die, but this video I'm making for ASAP members. And so you're on ASAP because you are involved with aftermarket automotive parts and, of course, selling them or making them or distributing them. So I want to say that I don't have all the answers, of course. And I don't know that I'm ever going to make all the answers by myself, right? So let's just talk about it and put it out there and go from there. So what are we going to talk about? We know e-commerce is here to stay. And we know that Amazon is setting the bar for the expectations of how soon we can get these goodies that we ordered online in our hands. And this is a big deal, right? I'm not a fan of Amazon. I think if you sell on Amazon, I buy on Amazon though. I buy my paper towels and toilet paper on Amazon, right? The grocery store is just down the street, but they deliver it and it's convenient for me. So it's all about convenience right now. But they're either going to continue what they're doing and change this all to their advantage, or we as an industry can take some of this back and start looking at what they're doing. And what they're doing is not paying attention to, the Kool-Aid that the industry, and I say Kool-Aid and you might not like that, but I'm not from your industry. I'm a web developer. So when I entered into doing websites and data for the industry, I saw a lot of things. I just went, what in the world are you guys thinking? And I got told a lot, well, that's just how it's always been, right? And that phrase, how it's always been, is something I'm sure that Blockbuster, Sears, Toys R Us, and many more really big companies that had a lot more invested in their product than you probably do are regretting their thinking about that. So again, it's I'm seeing that the brick and mortars, I mean, it's all over the internet. Brick and mortar stores are failing. E-commerce stores you're dealing with shipping costs and delivery times and competition on all that, and consumers, they can click a button and they can get all the information they need, and you don't get a chance to show your pretty little face or shake their hand, and even local stores. So my local Lowe's store, I think it's really cool. It's 2 blocks from my house. I thought their website was so cool because it actually shows you the product they have and which aisle and bin it's in, and that's cool. It also talks to you about if they can deliver it or if they'll hold it for you and pick it up. But then you get a lot of automotive parts that kind of too big, right, to get in my car. So if I was going down and I needed a ladder, I can't get the ladder in my car. And I mean, I'm just thinking all these thoughts, right? And so I'm sorry, I'm going to try and do this, but I think there's something we can do as an industry here. So 8 o'clock yesterday morning, my doorbell rang and it was a grocery store delivering. And that's kind of cool. Um, it was convenient and we're willing to pay Uber Eats and stuff. We're willing to pay a little more for a delivery charge if we don't have to go out and get it. So how can we merge this whole brick and mortar e-commerce thing, right? And so this is what I want to open the discussion on. So the end of this video is not going to say here's the be all end all. It's going to be something that I'd like to hear from those that want to really start talking about this, what we can do about it. Even with Amazon, right? So as a business owner, I'm thinking, oh, how can you hire a delivery person? And we don't have to. I get this boy who comes up to my house and rumbles in the back of his car, and he's an Uber driver and he's delivering. So, there's a lot to talk about, and I know I'm getting far away from my statement here, but I think there's some stuff we really need to talk about. So a lot of the stuff that you're selling on your website, people can't install themselves. And so you have a lot of brick and mortar installers, or maybe some of you have your own brick and mortar installation, but you're not really doing a great job of representing that on your website. And so I think there's an opportunity that we can get that consumer what he wants, and shift over to maybe working with some local or national installers. And none of this is going to be easy in the beginning, right? But if we don't, as an industry, come up and meet this challenge and make and control the rules, we're going to watch places like Amazon just take the business away, right? So what are we going to talk about? First of all, inventory. So to be able to ship something out or even drive something out to your local customers that you're selling on your website, you're probably going to need to have that on hand, or at least tell them they can have it by tomorrow. So you can't inventory everything. And I was thinking a couple things I could start doing is collecting like the top sellers from the manufacturers I do data for. At least that way you can look at the parts that they sell the most of, and they sell the most of because people are looking for it most, and not have to even worry about random parts for a 75 Nova or something. Not to say anything bad about a 75 Nova, but you can have a spot on your website that shows products that could be delivered to their house that day or the next morning, and not have to have them pay shipping. Again, you could hire an Uber driver if you didn't have the ability to have someone on staff to get this started, right? There's some things we can talk about here. I think we need to get the warehouse distributors to be a part of this. And so again, there's 5,400 manufacturers out there, and they've got just millions of parts. I mean, the warehouses can't hold all of them. But again, if we can start getting those top sellers out, and we can work with those warehouses and maybe even not ship it to the customer's house. So again, a bumper or a suspension kit or even a tire, for crying out loud. I'm going to say that 90% of you don't have shops where you can put the tire on or even install a suspension kit. But if you can, that's great. But let them know that on your website, right? And maybe even include installation on that as an option on your website for those customers that are local to you. I mean, there's no reason that you shouldn't have all your local business, right? You're there, you can get it. And so I'm just saying. So maybe we can get the warehouses to stock, if we can show them this is valid and this is going to move a lot, stock some of those products and ship them to the installers. So I just bought myself a new 2018 JK. She's so pretty. Her name is Molly. She's red. I want to buy stuff for her, I can't install anything more than a seat cover, right? And I don't know who installs here. I don't know if they're good installers, what their cost is. And so I'm not buying anything for her. I didn't buy anything but a couple things I could take and bolt on myself. But if I saw something on your site and it said, we can ship this to this installer, and you start working with some of these installers and going, hey, let's come up with a price that you would agree to install this for, I think there's something there. Those install shops a lot of times don't even have valid websites, and they certainly wouldn't carry the kind of aftermarket products you have, right? When you go into a tire store or something like that, they're not going to have all the awesome aftermarket manufacturers. They're going to carry more OE replacement parts, right? And so I'm thinking, if I said, hey, okay, they're going to ship this here, and I know what the install is, and I think I might just get my credit card out and go, okay, I'm good to go. And there's some details about that too as well, right? So this is just the starting conversation here. So you could start working with them. They get the install, or you get the install, and you get the sale off your website. So it's kind of a symbiotic type integration of a relationship that right now is completely separated. So I already know of a company, and it was a great concept, and they approached us for some stuff, and I had my hands too full with other things. But it's already happening, and it's happening on Amazon, and it's doing really well on Amazon. And so again, are we going to let Amazon be the death of all of us? I mean, you're sleeping with the enemy, even though you're like, well, that's how I make my sales. Right, you have to sell a lot, and they do, and you have to make a little bit of a margin. But trust me, guys, I feel like as soon as they feel like it, they'll just turn around and white label all this stuff. And so we are literally giving them all the stats and the demographics and the customer information for them to take your business away from you. And I think as the aftermarket industry is such a passion-driven industry, I think we need to do something about that, and we need to get control of it. So there's lots that we're going to think about, and as long as we understand what problems are the best thing to have in any kind of concept like this. Because if you don't know what the problem is, or the issue, or the frustration, or the challenge, then there's no way for you to fix it. And none of us want to be Sears or Blockbuster or Toys R Us or any of these guys who I can pretty much guarantee had more backing than you do, were more established than you are, and we would have never thought that they would not be around. But they aren't, because they're not moving quick enough to take into consideration how the consumer, and right, no matter what we do, data, websites, warehouses, manufacturers, all that, it's all about one thing. It's about that consumer with the credit card, right? And we are all that consumer. But for us, it's really weird, because we look at our sites and we look at this, and we can't even separate our brains for a second to go, as a consumer, what do I see here? And I think that might be one of the hardest parts, is to back up and see yourself as someone who doesn't know you yet. And so anyway, we need to do everything we can to cater to the person who's got the credit card and the vehicle, right? And ignoring this, I talk to a lot of manufacturers, and I'm going to go ahead and call them the legacy brands, and it might piss them off, but you know me. The thing is I talk to them, I'm like, look, let's talk about your data, and this is what your dealers need, and I get told, nah, you know what, we're so and so, we're big, and punch my chest. And I think to myself, that's really sad, because that person's ego got in his way. And I'm just wondering who at Sears said that same thing, who at Blockbuster said, nah, we're not going to do it, we don't need to, we're Blockbuster. And I feel bad for those legacy brands that aren't moving forward, that are putting people in a position to destroy their brand. A lot of these new and upcoming manufacturers I talk to, man, it's exciting. I'm like, oh my goodness, you get it. And you know what? They're going to be here in 10 years. Hopefully, we'll all be here in 10 years. But if we don't make some changes right now, there are 12-year-olds that are sitting in class right now that know social media and the internet in ways we'll never understand them. Our brains don't work. For the most of us, our brains don't work like that. For heaven's sakes, I have to hand my phone to my 23-year-old and ask her to do the simplest things for me. And it's frustrating, right? But when those 12-year-olds get to an age and they decide to look at this industry, the aftermarket industry, all your lunch money's going to them because they understand their demographic. They understand that mentality because it's them, right? It's them. It's how they interact with images and social networks, and it's what they expect. And if we ignore what the consumer expects and demands and just say, no, you have to do it our way, then we don't deserve as an industry to stay alive, right? So again, I want to be clear. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have an e-commerce site. I'm not a manufacturer. I'm not a WD. But everything I do revolves around your business succeeding. So I guess I do. I want you to succeed. I want this industry to succeed so that my businesses succeed as well. So I guess I do have a little bit of a dog in this fight. I talk to dealers, distributors, manufacturers. They tell me things that they're not going to tell you directly, and I got to tell you that I'm pretty sure a lot of this issue is because we're trying to drive a new concept on an old road, right? And that just doesn't happen. That's why they took old roads and made them pavement. But we're all so disconnected in this industry, and one group will think this and one group will think that. And guys, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be this is valid and that is valid for this different purposes, right? So concrete roads or asphalt roads and roads that, I mean, doesn't mean they're not valid roads, but it's a very big disconnect and it's not performing very well, right? It's a lot of people spending a lot of time, and we're all asking for better pricing, instead of going a better way to do this so we don't have to spend so much of our time and energy, and we can use that marketing money instead of the time we spend, and stop cheap selling this stuff. So, you know, Ford once said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And that's really important because that's where we're at right now, right? We're not listening to what people are actually saying. They don't want faster horses. They want it a different way. And so let's not wait until we failed. Let's, as an industry, let's take the reins on this thing, right? That's what the aftermarket industry is all about. It's, I can do this better, right? I can do this better than what it's being done, and man, and we feel defeated and exhausted, and you know, we all wear 17 different hats. Let's take control of this beast and let's make it something spectacular and stop just being reactive to what everyone else is doing. Let's drive it, right? What do you say? Are you interested in this at all? Anybody? Bueller, anybody? You know, if you're older like me, you probably know what the little red hen is, but that's who I am right now. And I'm the little red hen saying, who will help me bake this bread? And in this story, just to give a little side note, no one wanted to help the little red hen make the bread, but they all wanted to eat it. And the thing is that I'm not industry like you. I understand e-commerce. I understand technology on my side, but I'm not from your industry. I am not 30 years into it. I didn't grow up with it. I didn't see all the, you know, the changes and whatnot. It's going to take both people like you and people like me to merge this into what is going to happen. And guys, not everyone's going to make it, right? Not everyone's going to make it. A lot of people don't. sh- mm, um, it's running a business. It's running a real business. It's not a hobby. And so, you know, there's just people that after we get this all solidified and down pat, it doesn't have a room for everybody. Now, I'm not just saying about dealers. I'm saying some manufacturers won't make it. Some warehouses won't make it. Some dealers won't make it. But what will make it is going to be stronger, and it will help you build your legacy, right? Something to pass on to your children and your grandchildren and your great great grandchildren. So what do you say, right? What do you say we start having this conversation about the click and mortar concept and you know, the business and industry you save could be your own. So if you want to be part of this, you want to get rolling with me on this, there's my number right there, Amanda Wickett, 7 days a week. And let's start penciling out all the different avenues. Let's get everyone involved from the manufacturer level to the dealer level to the distributor level. Let's get them all involved and talk about the consumers, right? I would wait for an industry leader to do this, but it doesn't look like that's the direction they're going in for some organizations that were built for this industry. They're going more for legislation and that. And that's important as well. I mean, my God, that's important. But all of it means nothing. You get rules and laws passed to let someone do something, but you can't even figure out how to get the part to that consumer that you just got that pass for. Then what are we all doing this for, right? Anyway, Amanda Wickett, 719-432-9415. Come on, guys. Let's do this, okay? And gals.